Oh, it's funny.
What's up?
You can't go live on Twitter unless your account is premium, so it wouldn't let me go live on Midlife's, Twitter. Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's live on Twitter. Okay.
Well, we're live now, and everyone
All
else
right.
just, heard about that. What up, folks? I didn't realize it gave me the warning, and, it went live still. I figured it would give me my warning, and
Yeah.
then I could go live, but welcome to the show, y'all. We're just gonna chill and chat. We're gonna try this as a new format. You know, every time I seem to turn on the camera, man, we're trying to, like, be professional, and we have to have our stuff together. I think this is a good idea for me and you to just, like, chill out, relax, and talk about life and all the things we're working on. Give me your thoughts, brother.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, we talk often, and we're always doing these strategy sessions and just kind of talking through things. A lot of midlife ideas, and so many of these things are things that other people are going to be asking anyway. They're things that are people are searching for, and so it just makes sense. It's like, hey, this is us, and it's a good chance to get some questions answered, and just to catch up and kind of get our own thoughts down on
Oh,
paper and clear.
hell yeah, man. So, like, in my mind, let's just start with how the day went, bro. Hit me on the day. Hit me on your day. I'll hit you on my day.
Okay, will do. So, it's definitely I'm in an industry where Mondays are real, right? And
Mondays are real. Define real for
yeah,
me.
well, so anything in real estate property man, what happens is everybody like a lot of industries, you get into the weekend and on Friday you're like, I know I had X, Y, and Z to do, but you know what? I'll put it off. And we put it off on the weekend because we're doing the things we enjoy. And then on Sunday, we dread those things we have to do on Monday. And on Monday morning, it's like, okay, here's the tsunami of tasks that have just been piling up.
Yeah.
And I am the person that is in between the people and getting those tasks done. And so I know that's what's going to happen on Monday. So I'm always ready for it, and I love dealing with people. It's customer service sales is just it's a dying art, sadly. But yeah,
Yeah.
Mondays are no joke. And but people get it. People are. It's like Friday afternoon, everybody's in a good mood. Monday morning, it's like have they had their coffee yet or not? A little there, but not too bad, man. Shift work is interesting too, though, because I work ten days on, then I work 4 days off. So
Right.
this is like the end of it. And so it starts to wear on you a little bit, but I don't really mind it that much. And overall, man, it's a fantastic Monday. What I'm excited about is things are moving and things are shaking, and that is for sure. I'm really excited. We'll get into it, but Fed's dropped interest rates a little bit. That is creating a little bit of a storm in the real estate world, and
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
have to see. We'll have to see what happens, but it's good. So yeah, people are people are eager to seek expertise right now, and that is a good thing for those of us who've spent time putting ourselves in that position.
Right. And
What
dude,
about you, man?
retweet this bad boy on your Twitter account. I know
Will do.
multitasking sometimes gets you a little bent
Eh,
out of shape, but you
nah, I'm
can
good,
handle
man.
it. I
I got
promise
you.
it. How
I
about
got
me?
you.
How about myself? Well, he said something already interesting, and I want it well. I actually just went to the midlife crisis Twitter account, and the first thing that popped up was the trailer to the new Joker movie. Tell me how amped you are for that, because it looks as dark as ever, or are you not
Have
amped?
did you watch the trailer? Do you know anything about it?
No, I haven't watched the trailer, but it looks looking pretty dark.
Okay, all right. Well,
Give it to me.
spo-
Tell me your thoughts.
spoiler alert, it's a musical. And so
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
that kind of changes your vibe, doesn't it?
I'm
Yeah.
not
It's
excited to watch any of this
Joaquin
now.
Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga bringing it in like Moulin Rouge style on Joker 2. So
What?
it's definitely a gamble. Um I personally think
Hmm.
it's not a smart strategy because the first Joker was like cult-like following.
Right. Yeah.
And just even though they tried to pan it and all this stuff, it just did well. It's just a good movie. I mean, it's Joaquin Phoenix is just an amazing actor. We saw, I mean, if you saw it, it's just a fantastic story they told, and what a delivery. So you're ready for that, and you want a sequel, and then they give you show tunes. I don't know. Listen, things have been crazier, but balance of averages, this is probably, it's already hard to pull off a sequel when a movie's good. I mean, it's like one of the hardest
Right.
things to do in entertainment.
Right.
This level of a detour probably not going to end well.
Well, uh, we can relate it to Web3. 99% of the time it fails, but there is a 1% chance that this movie could redefine musicals. And if it does, they've got a
One
home run.
might be generous, might be generous, but
But I don't think that's gonna be the case. So
hey,
yeah,
listen, I
that's
mean,
that's pretty bizarre.
musicals have a huge following. I mean, they can perform well when you're expecting that. If I say, "Hey, we're going to do Chicago," or Cats or something, like something big Broadway type thing that you're used to hearing, you expect it. And so
For sure.
everybody's going in and they're going to be excited about it. Joker, maybe not.
Yeah,
Maybe not.
yeah, that's just such a weird combo, but
Isn't it?
yeah, no, I did not obviously watch the trailer because I would have said differently,
Yeah,
but I mean, it still looks dark for sure, but yeah,
for sure.
that's a miss in my mind. Come on,
Hey,
just make
listen,
another good,
we'll
because
see.
dude, the original Joker it was dark, but it was good,
Yeah, yeah.
really good.
There's a fantastic account, Critical Drinker, and there's a couple of the big ones, but that do reviews on it. And he did an excellent one on the first Joker, and basically how it was a movie that like no one really asked for, but it,
Right,
it still did really well, and it created a whole bunch of fans. And I always think any story is interesting when you can give a different side to what we typically think is like the standard archetype of like good guy hero and bad guy
right.
villain. And it's like when you can show one of those and show how much overlap there actually is, and that like the good guy hero and the villain are usually closer than they'd like to
Oh,
admit.
for
And
sure.
telling any story that way in a good way, just really, really good, easy entertainment to watch.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the whole, Sopranos, Dexter, all of those things caught
Of course.
fire is because
Yeah.
that was really the first time mainstream saw like, oh, bad people do have good thoughts. And there
Hmm.
there are there are nuances here that we didn't think about.
Yeah.
Was the original Joker a DC comic movie or was it its own thing?
No, there was never a movie. Joker was just always a comic book bad guy to Batman. But as the story evolved, his story did get significantly more complex. And how does somebody get that kind of deranged? And the more you learn about his history, the more you're like, gosh, man, I kind of feel bad for this guy. But isn't that what we see? I mean, all these Netflix specials when they're going into these, even in real life, like some of these really quote unquote like horrible people,
Right.
when you look at their childhood, you almost have to kind of step back and say, geez, I mean, makes a little more sense now. And so
Right.
it's not excusing their behavior, but it certainly sheds light as to maybe where it came from. And so it's just very interesting because the old adage is, like hurting people hurt people, and then that cycle perpetuates.
Right. Right.
Um, it's
I mean, you can
it's,
you can
it's an interesting
empathize
thing.
with them,
Sure,
in
for sure,
the sense. They
sure.
but was the actual the my question really was because DC comic films have in the past been god awful, horrific.
Yeah,
Was that considered a DC film?
yeah, it is.
Oh,
It is considered a DC film. Listen, you got to remember, DC is 90% bad, 10% some of the best movies you ever see. I mean, look, the Dark Knight series with Christopher Nolan, and
incredible.
those were amazing Batman movies. They did
Right.
very well. Um, but yeah, I mean, the Where DC stood to gain was they needed to just be themselves, just like what Dark Knight did, what Joker, and just let it be what it is. When they tried to become Marvel and they tried to become Avengers, they were doomed.
Yeah,
You can't out Marvel, right? You have to just be what you are, and
right.
they were never meant to compete with that. It's a different,
True.
you know, storytelling method, and two different ways. I
Absolutely.
mean, Christopher Nolan and John Favreau just tell stories differently.
Yeah.
So
Bonger.
yeah.
Bonger. I said bonger, but I meant to say Bonji. God, man, that is such a great name. Bonji, it's so good to see you, bro. I said bonger. I meant to say your name. Bonji says Joker Rogue could be more along the lines of The Greatest Showman with Hugh
Yeah,
Jackman, which was a monster hit.
yeah, and I did say that, right? I gave room. I don't think it will be good,
Right.
for a variety of reasons, but that doesn't mean it can't be good. The Greatest Showman did very well. Also,
Right.
I mean, if you want to, with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, A Star Is Born. I mean, that was like the fourth remake of that movie or whatever it is. But like,
Right.
you can do those things, and they can become popular movies. What I think is interesting, though, is that um, there was no Greatest Showman 1 that was an ultra, like, dark, realistic, introspective look at how Bale, was it Barnum, created the circus, and then now create a sequel where everybody sings. I just think that those are
Yeah,
very
I'll give you
different,
that. I'll give you
and
that.
so yeah.
You've kind of you've set some groundwork for people expecting
Yeah,
what's next to come, and you're
sure. I mean,
taking a complete
flip it around. What if
90.
they made a sequel to Greatest Showman and it had no songs, right?
True.
You would
True.
be like, all of the people who are fans would go to that and go, "Huh?" And that would be, I think you may get some of that here. I think a lot of people are just gonna go see it and don't even know, and then they're gonna be surprised. So
Oh, Bonji, it's so good to see. We're gonna have to jump on voice chat, man. We are grinding. We are
mm.
still. We told you we're not giving up, and when we don't give up, guess what? Big things are coming in about another 5 years. We're doing that family midlife crisis dinner like we told you about. It's definitely happening.
It's happening,
Oh,
obviously.
there's
It's
no way it's
happening.
not happening. Just so you all know, most of the people that know my brand, or have seen Matty lately or have seen the podcast sometime in the past, we started this whole crazy journey in 2021 when I convinced Matty he needs to change our then video game stream to talking about NFTs and talking to founders. And we haven't stopped. And that was like 3 years ago. So we're gonna keep on doing it. We're not gonna stop, and we're having a blast. We have a couple other business ideas. Before we get there, and we had some questions that we were gonna talk about. You already said something really interesting to me, which was customer service and sales is a dying art form. Talk to me about that, brother. I love it.
Well, I mean,
Talk to
listen,
me. People need to
uh,
hear this shit.
we midlife crisis and a lot of the space that you operate in, and Web3 is it's technology, right? And technology evolves, and with AI, there is a human element that is being removed.
Mhm.
And it's just that's nothing new, right? That's industrialization, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then it goes on to the information revolution. And so um, what's interesting to me is the ability to reach people, talk to people, have a conversation, look someone eye in the eye, shake a hand, make a friend,
Yeah.
is something that a whole generation of people have not been trained to do. In
Yeah.
fact, they've been trained on how to do it through mediums like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and even just content, right? I'm going to put up a story and I'm going to put that on social media.
Right.
This is how I'm going to talk to the world, rather than actually talking to the world, actually talking to people, right? And so anyway, what I see with that is being our age and seeing younger people in sales, it's very interesting to see the learning curve, because for many of them, it's the first time they've been put in a situation where they have to talk to people day in, day out, day in, day out, and they don't
Right.
really know, they're not comfortable with it. And I think that, like anything, they don't realize all of the things we learn are a skill, and you just have to put in the reps, man. That's it. But I
So
think it's a
give me
dying art.
give me
I just don't think a lot of people think there's any value in it. And
Mhm.
ironically, the deepest connections and partnerships, and like the networking that takes place, the who factor, still relies on that heavily.
Yeah, I love this. I love this conversation. So give me, some of the biggest, like, flaws or hurdles that you see this younger generation having to go through? Is it a product or one of these things of, like, just putting in the reps, or is it the fact that they're starting off with no context, no clue, to not even know how to do it effectively? Like, do they need somebody like you, our generation, that grew up before digital, but understands digital and understands these basic sales principles? What does that look like?
It's a great question. Um, and I think part of the answer is, first of all, I don't want to call them flaws, right? We are who we are, and we're a product of our environment and what we were taught. And I think that a lot of people, especially this newer generation coming up, are really crushing it at the things they've been taught to do, which is awesome, right? They're
Yeah.
achievers. They want to win, and I love that, um, for sure. Where I think where there's going to be some gaps is, for a long, even we grew up. I mean, dude, the concept of like standardized tests, and if you don't get an A, somehow you failed, and all this stuff,
Yeah.
creates this pressure that like you have to be, success means not failing,
Right.
and life is going to teach you lessons whether you want to or not. The
Mhm.
bottom line is it's we're a product of our losses, we're a product of our failures, and those deepest lessons come from that. And some point you mature to a point where you realize these were valuable. They were painful, but they were valuable, and they're
Mhm.
incredible character builders, and they've given me stories and insight and wisdom that I could not have gotten if I had just won all the time. And so I think that a lot of people are being robbed of learning that, and I think that that's going to be a big factor with the next generation. And so when you say, can somebody teach them that? Sure. I don't think it's going to be something you just say with a t-shirt or a bumper sticker, right? I
Right.
think we have to put people in situations where you have to go through that learning curve of, wow, I didn't know I was bad at this, but I'm willing to stick through it enough to start getting good at it, and then feel the joy of realizing that the work it took, the years of getting the reps in, are what
Mhm.
separate me from most people. I mean, look at what
Mhm.
we're doing right now, man. Midlife crisis as a stream and as an entity. How many people start a podcast? How many people start a YouTube channel, right?
Right.
And you know what the drop off rates are. I mean,
Yeah.
it's astronomical. And so doing something for 2 or 3 years in this realm immediately puts you in what? I mean, what how many people do you think make it to a 2 year anniversary
I
with
mean, top
content?
5%, maybe?
Yeah,
Could be less, no? 2 or
could be
3%?
less. Couldn't
I
tell you.
mean, yeah.
um
I would say 5. I mean, I would love to see that stat, the amount of podcasts started, because here's the funny thing. I've heard this, comment all the time. You know, I'll tell people, "Yeah, I have a podcast company." Although it's actually kind of fun when you introduce yourself. I no longer am saying like, "Oh, I just work at a corporate job." I'm like, "I have a corporate job during the day, but I also have a podcast company." It just makes the conversation a lot more interesting, which is kind of
yeah.
fun. But to your point, a lot of people replying like, "Oh man, everybody has a podcast company, a dime a dozen." I was like, "Yeah, there's a lot of podcasts out there, but most of them, go look at their playlist. It's like 3 months, maybe."
Hmm.
Right? And you make a good point, and I think the other thing to layer on to that is, and I've said this a lot in, like, spaces and stuff, I still think people, they miss the mark on what social media actually is. Like, just literally interpret social media. It is a platform to help you socialize, but not just through a screen. I've used social media, and the most successful thing that we have done is, I mean, for a while there, I was on a call, multiple calls a day
Mhm.
for months on end, right? And I'm the number one thing that I've made the mistake, I'm going back through time, is more painstaking, but the Rolodex that we're sitting on is worth tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. The access that I
I
can
mean,
call up, Digimental,
yeah, I mean,
I
that's what I'm
can
saying. I think you're grossly underestimating it. I think it's
yeah,
worth millions.
and I can
Um,
text Clement and David from Imaginary Ones. I can get on the phone with, um Scribe, Pon's right-hand man. Like, I can do that, and these are part of the things that we're thinking about on how to evolve our brand. We've given stuff away for free for so long, and now really manifesting and understanding what we actually done, because it's one of these crazy principles too. How many times have we talked about, "Dude, we're, like, a year deep into this, I feel like nothing's happening." And then you look back, and every day you do something, again, it feels like nothing's happening.
yeah,
And then you look back and it clicks and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I've actually done a ton, and what I've done is insanely valuable." And but the reason I bring this up is it goes back to your point about sales. The human connection, why we started this brand, is so important. Anybody here, especially in Web3 or in sales in general, but particularly in Web3, they think they need to be the best thread guy. They think they need to link up with yet the next marketing content creation group, be in all the alpha groups to grow. I don't think that's the answer. I think the answer is find people you relate to, pick up the phone, call them, and then when you're done, ask them 3 other people that you should talk to.
yeah.
If you
Well,
do
we
that
and
for a year, bro.
yeah, and we did that at the end. I mean, the end of our show was who do we need to talk to? Who else needs to be on the show, right?
Yeah,
That concept is valuable, and I think the lesson that a lot of people skip is people think you have to go meet the the multimillionaire successful person, right? Or
right.
the influencer or the person that has all the influence, whatever you want to say, right?
Uh-huh.
But the truth is this, you just have to meet their friend.
Right,
That's so
right.
much easier, you know?
Mhm,
When that burden came off of me, like I don't have to go meet the multimillionaire. Here's
mhm.
what I know. If I ask Bonji, especially being in New York, right? It's like successful people know successful people.
Yeah,
And so it's like, who do you know that? And there's going to be an answer. It's like we all have that person who has a lot of either power, influence, control, money, whatever. And that's this go-to person, right? And or multiple of them. And so it's just interesting to me because like you can take almost any topic and
yeah,
you're gonna find somebody. It's not about just knowing Mikey. It's when I meet you, I meet everyone in your circle. And that's what's powerful is when you learn to leverage that, game over, man.
yeah.
That's why saying tens of $1,000s is laughable because think about how many people you have met, Mike. How many of those phone calls, not of them that were millionaires, but how many of them, if you said, "Do you know a millionaire?" would all say yes.
Of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's your network, and
A
that's
lot of them
why.
have been millionaires themselves, right? Yeah,
Correct,
and but so
correct.
here's the other thing I'll layer onto this, though, that people do not think, and this is where I think it all falls apart. Even Bonji said it, right? You've heard this a bajillion times, "Your network is your net worth."
Hmm.
I would disagree with that statement in this sense. If you take that statement for face value, it means nothing. What most people don't realize is they might know all the millionaires in the world, but what they don't do is have, and we did this, right? The last 2 to 3 years, we have, one of the things we probably made a huge mistake on is we didn't ask for enough back in the sense of, "Hey, man, just get your community of 400,000 people to just give us a like on YouTube." Like, it's not
Hmm.
that hard of a thing to ask. But we didn't have a clear, concise narrative. We just knew we were really good at podcasting and genuinely connecting with people. And really, in the last couple months, I've met a couple of people that have really helped kind of like put strategy and formulate what we're actually sitting on. And what I'm getting at is you can have the greatest network in the world, but if you don't have a clear, concise vision, how you want to utilize that network and be able to clearly explain that narrative, it's all for nothing, right?
Mhm.
So what we've done in the past has done an amazing job of building this huge Rolodex. And now I think we're getting to the point where we have a couple solutions where this Rolodex is going to become super powerful. So it's yet again, it's a combination of things. There's just so many times that you read a very simple statement like net worth is your network type of thing, and people will repeat that till they're blue in the face, but they have no clue what they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Everything you said is correct, right? And um, I would say an unrealized or untapped network is worthless, right? And
Right,
so um, that's true, but a lot of people will go around collecting names. They'll collect the Rolodex and confuse that for success.
right,
You know what I mean? But the person that goes around saying, "Here's who I know," that's not the success. It's leveraging. It's using that as a tool for growth. And uh, I think the next level from that is recognizing that it's not about what can you get from your network, it's what can you give towards your
mhm,
network. And that's
mhm,
when the network really starts to thrive for you. When you start serving others, lifting other people up, I think that's one of the biggest difference, because there's plenty of successful people that are used to being used. They're not used to getting things for free. They're used to scraping themselves. So I think it's interesting to recognize that. I think that's maybe a different angle from it, but it's
right.
important to recognize.
No, I think those are all good points. I think Banji said, another, thing is the relationship with that Rolodex, right? To your point, a lot of people just collect names and email addresses, and it's very topical, and they
Hmm.
use it as, "Oh, so and so follows me." I see this all the time on Twitter. "Oh, I just got followed by X." That means
Hmm.
nothing, right?
Yep.
And what we've done is we've cultivated not only a Rolodex, but genuine connections. So I can reach out to a founder of a very big project and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I promise you I trust in this person. There's somebody that you're gonna wanna talk to," and they will reply back and say, "Of course, Mikey, like, for sure. Uh, if you say that's a person I should talk to, I'm absolutely gonna give them some time because I trust you."
Yeah.
That's way different than saying you know somebody.
For sure. For sure. Um, yeah. I mean, I think we have addressed this topic in the sense that, the network, using them, genuine connections. Listen, that's why genuine human connections was the fundamental pillar of like what we're trying to do.
Mhm,
So
for sure.
I'm with you, man. I want to detour a little bit because we wanted to focus on our time.
Yes.
Um, Here's what I would like you to do for me, because we've been chatting, but I would just love a recap if you could. You know those
Mhm.
YouTube videos where they're like, when a new season of your show comes out
Yeah,
and you forgot all the old seasons, and you hop on
yeah,
YouTube and you're like, give me the recap of everything that happened, but in 5 minutes. And
yeah.
you're like, oh, that. I would like that recap of Web3
Uh-huh.
since the NFT heyday. What has happened? If
Mm.
somebody is coming back into Web3 and they're stepping into this, they're like, man, I don't know, last thing there was some hate something, and they're from there. What would be your 5 minute? What would be your recap for them?
Uh,
Take me on a journey.
I mean, I think it's the same with it was the NFTs version of the ICOs. Huge exchanges failed, tons of money was lost, crypto crashed.
Hmm.
Uh, then people created the same narrative, "Wag me, we're so back," when nothing was really back. It spawned a new generation of creators that stuck around during this crazy bear market. Crypto started coming back again, but all that happened was another mousetrap was built, and that was Pump.Fun and these shitty meme coins and all of just more empty stuff. So even though crypto has crashed, come back, the ETF and all this stuff has happened, the NFT ecosystem as a whole, nothing's really changed. The crypto market keeps on trying to come up with a better marketing mousetrap. And
Yeah.
and if you actually look at the actual traded volume, like it just continues to cannibalize itself. And you
Mm,
still hear the same narrative, right? Like, oh, we
okay.
need Web 2 adoption. And I don't even know. I think that's one way to go. But what people don't realize, and I had this conversation with Bubbles this morning, is if we get Web 2 adoption like people think it's going to happen, corporate America is going to come in and they're just going to create Web 3 for what they want. What I do think is happening now is OGs. By the way, we're like OGs now, right? Because we were around the craze day like 2020, 2021, which is like Clubhouse OG Board Ape days.
Yep. Yep.
The people that have stuck around for the right reasons, I do see this renaissance in those people that stuck around creating projects because they understand the power of community. In some of my original thesis, right? It's brand 3.0, not
Hmm.
web 3.0. And there's truly unlocked potentials in the power of Web3 communities and brand. I don't think anybody's figured it out, but I think there's been a lot of lessons learned. And I think over the next couple years, these community-led projects are going to build brands the right way. Bored Ape had it, but Bored Ape was still just like a club, right? You were buying an NFT to become part of a club. I'm talking about small communities because you can't manage 10,000 people, right? Create a DAO and have 10,000 people, you're never going to manage that. I'm talking 50, I'm talking 100 people that have serious passion about blockchain and Web3, serious passion about brands, and serious passion about using that technology for good and creating something new and unique. I think that and people like TSK DAO, this other place called the District, Plague, my PFP, the people that are trying to figure out real business problems and just problems in general, but utilizing their community to do it are going to be the winners. As
Elaborate
you
on that. Elaborate on that because I think it's easy for someone from the outside to say, okay, well, I can understand why some massive influencer who has a million followers can say, I'm going to have a shoe or a cologne or something, right? And they can get a ton of adoption just because they're important to a lot of people, right? But when you say these smaller communities, explain to me how that will create a renaissance. Explain to me, elaborate on how that's going to shift the model.
Because they'll create real companies. They're incubators, right? It's the
Okay.
true incubator model with like-minded people, but they're using Web3 communities to create new companies, enhance
Mhm.
current brands, creativity, right? With
Yep.
the advent of AI, because you can crowdsource ideas, but when
Yeah.
you're crowdsourcing ideas with somebody that you have been friends with now for a couple years and have this, again, genuine human connection, personal knowledge,
Hmm.
not only do the creativity get better, the ideas are better, and there's this we're in it to win it together. Whereas, like, if somebody has 10 million followers,
Yeah.
yeah, they can create a brand, but really it's just corporate America paying for their name to put on a brand, right? It's still the same product, uh, but their community is doing nothing at all. Like it's the influencer that's benefiting from everything. I
Sure.
think you can have small collective communities that can benefit truly from this like decentralized DAO model. Don't know. I don't know what the answers are,
Okay.
but I think somebody's going to figure it out.
Okay.
For
No,
instance, our business, our strategy business, not to get into details, but using Web3 communities to produce new business models and outputs from collective thought that you wouldn't have before, because even though Red Bull has created a culture, that's all
mhm,
it is a culture. It's not an intimate community that shares thought, that says hi to each other every morning, and that has personal connections and communications. You just relate to Red Bull because you like extreme sports and you're kind of like to go against the grain. That brand means something to you, but most of the people aren't like creating mini families and ecosystems within the Red Bull brand. But people are doing that in Web3. And I think that synergy is going to create a lot of really interesting things over the next couple of years. But I could be
okay.
totally wrong. I could be
Well,
wrong because that no one's going to break through, because again, it's on the smaller scale. And until something really makes some noise, people are just here to make money, right? It could all just be
yeah.
drowned out, you know? And the KOLs could be bigger and bigger, because I even hate the term KOL. People say KOLs, but all the KOLs, most of them in this space, are just getting paid to shill some random stuff from a project that they don't even believe in. So
Yeah.
hopefully that can change. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's very interesting because my reaction to what you said is, yes, Red Bull has created a culture, but I also see how that's created billions of dollars. Um, there's a monetization model that works with influence and brand that we've seen, and
For
you've
sure.
seen it. You know more than I do about this. What I'm really curious is that I believe that for there to be any type of widespread adoption or true success with what's happening in any series is there has to be enough carrot for people to want to do it.
Yep.
And uh, you're not wrong, right? A sense of belong could be it, right? That's what a church is. If you think about it, that's what like religion is. There's no monetization. Well, maybe for some, but the concept of like just finding a good group of people to be around is
Yes.
worthy. That is, it can be its own goal. But I think a lot of people are interested in, okay, how do we use this to create wealth or affect change? And where I think an interesting direction for this is that when you have well-oiled machines that are like communities where trust has been built, you don't have the normal kind of like yes, group think, the just a
Hmm.
bunch of sycophants around one influencer, is you can actually create um, and get outside the box, create new ideas and new systems and new systems in themselves, and those are very valuable. Let me give you an example, right? If you create a way, because I've been interested in real estate, right? And if you create a way to you use AI, right, to create a better way to market and sell. Um, let's just say it could be anything, it could be a product, but let's just say real estate, right? To get more leads, right? A lead
Hmm.
generation AI software program.
Hmm.
Well, I think the average person says, "Sweet, I'm a real estate agent. I'm going to go get more leads with this AI tool," rather
Hmm.
than thinking, "Well, if I optimize this tool, the tool itself is the product." Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
I can sell that product to Remax. I can sell that product to Keller Williams. And now, rather than just getting more leads, I can sell something for 50, $100 million, right?
Yep.
And that concept, those type of like idea think tanks are all very small, intimate groups of people who have built trust. I mean, think
Yes.
about it. Lockheed Martin is a massive company,
Hmm.
but they have one small group, Skunk Works, which is a bunch of really smart people that they put in one room and just say, think of cool things.
Yeah.
Um, eh, why is that? Because they know there's power in that. Do you know what I mean? And I just
Hmm.
think that that's an interesting concept. So what I hear you saying is Web3 over these last couple of years has kind of divulged into some of these smaller think tanks. and it should be interesting to see what comes out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of these projects like Project Gajira has literally created incubators for
Hmm.
Web3 people, that was a small community for a long time. And but I don't know what the outcome is, right? The one way to easily go is, uh, they become incubators, but I don't think
Yeah,
that's the only answer, right? Like the
yeah, for
the
sure.
project district is doing something super cool by each district, which are smaller. Well, one, they picked 111 people in this space that they think are influential and can make an impact and are builders, right? That's
Hmm.
the core of this project. And then each district is made up of different mindsets. You've got devs, you've got artists, you've got founders, you've got shitcoin degen people, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because they all make up this space. Now, the question is if you make an intimate community, uh, with a strategy and a mission like that, do new things come about? Because the old model is I'm just here to spam Discord to make money. That
Sure.
people are now starting to think, well, how do I utilize a community of passionate, like-minded people to do interesting things? Uh, and I think we're going to see some really interesting, cool things come about. But I don't think anyone's, you know, even when we are around, right? Hate Beast was an IP fashion play. Gaming, that everyone thought gaming was 2021. That was it, right? Well, guess what? Gaming now is a thing, but I keep on hearing it's a thing, right? There are some games that are coming out that are legit for sure, but nothing's nothing's really changed, which is
Mhm.
crazy because it moves so fast. And I think it's still the product of ultimately this space is driven by trying to flip, make money, greed, investing type mindsets.
Yeah.
And that is what permeates a majority of this ecosystem. But I think the creators have a chance to make a renaissance as well. And I
Okay.
think I had another conversation I had about the last couple days is I still think there's an opportunity like us and other builders in this space to start the right narrative because all the narrative is right now is like get as many followers as possible, talk
Hmm.
about the next shitcoin, make $10,000 for a tweet, and call it a day.
Yeah. So you've been talking to these people. You've been talking to them even during the kind of the slower times. The ones that are winning, what are the successful mindsets, if you will, that you're seeing in the ones that seem to be moving forward in a positive direction?
I mean, I've said this recently, and this is the big fundamental. I would say the fundamental shift in the mindset is the company is no longer the NFT. Remember when we first started, like, the company was the NFT. Like,
Yeah.
"What are you doing?" "Oh, I have an NFT that's a company." It's like, "No, no, 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 no." NFT is a form of technology, blockchain technology, and people are starting real companies using NFTs and blockchain technology.
Hmm.
So I think that's the big fundamental mind shift and mindset. And the one thing that hasn't changed, which the people that are doing well, the Digimental sold his company for I think 10 million bucks, maybe a little bit more to a Japanese company. So but he built a brand over a longer period of time. The Imaginary Ones guys, they are continuing to build a brand over a long period of time. It's the number one principle we always talk about, man.
Yeah.
People are building businesses for a 5, 10 plus year plan. The problem and the reason why this space is the way it is people think that Web3 and NFTs and this technology is a cheat code to building sustainable meaningful things, and it's not. You don't get a pass because you're in Web3. You have to do the same thing that any other industry does,
Yeah.
and that is get a solid team around you, understand how to hire people, figure out a true problem to solve that people give a shit about, and build for years on end.
Yeah, I would go as far as to say it's not even do you not get a pass. I think you immediately go into a headwind, the fact that you're in a Web3 business.
For
Um,
sure.
you're going to have struggles because the perception of it is already that it's scammy, and so it's harder to pursue that. Um, what forces are out there, do you think, maybe that could be at play that are hindering this? Because what you just said made me think. You know, I remember learning that the top money maker for Facebook was information, and that really
Mhm.
blew my mind. And then somebody else, it was on
Yeah, they're really just a
one of the
data
big TED
company.
talks, but yeah,
Google's
one
the
of the big
same
TED
way.
talks. Yeah, that like basically these companies with information is now more valuable than oil. And that like that blew my mind, right? Um, so one of the things that's interesting about that is to have that, you have to collect information and hoard it and then gatekeep access to it monetarily, right? Which is what Facebook has done or Google has done. Do you think the fact that Web3, the whole concept of this blockchain and transparency, stands in the face of that?
Ask that last question again, the
Okay,
last part.
so blockchain, right? So we take any example when this was first hitting, and people were like, let me tell you why Web3 is amazing. The
Yeah,
blockchain is everything. You're going to be able to see it all. You'll be able to trace it back. You can't
yeah.
hide anything. Well, doesn't that kind of like stand in the face and isn't the exact opposite of what Google and Facebook and all these people do? So do you think maybe I don't know, they have a little bit of influence out there in that tech world. Do you think maybe there are forces actively
Oh, for
stifling
sure.
the growth here because it stands in the face of that?
For sure. That's why the political race is such a big deal right now, because there's obviously differing opinions out there.
Sure.
And that's always going to be an issue of this space.
Mhm.
I still don't think that is the main
I
problem
don't think it's
with
the
the
main. I don't
space.
think I just think it's a
I
thing.
think
I never thought of it until you mentioned it.
I think it's always gonna be a narrative that people are gonna have problems with,
Yeah,
because there are big powers at play that don't like, the ethos of Web3. But at the end of
sure.
the day, and that's why I go back to what I think is so critical right now is for people like us that have been around for years to band together to do the right thing, but then have the right narrative. For instance,
The right thing in the right
there's
way.
yeah, and again, outside of Web3, whatever, you're just doing the right thing the right way, but using the right technology. Um, but most of the influencers or KOLs in this space, they just spout random things that they have no knowledge of. Like they're trying to tell me how to do marketing, and they'll write a tweet and be like, "This is the way that you should do Web3 marketing." I'm like, "Motherfucker, I've been doing marketing for 20 plus years, and what you said is absolutely not true at all." Right? And so because it's so new, people just trust everybody and what they say.
Yeah.
So those types of things, absolutely the bigger problem with this space. I mean, the whole transparency thing, that gets into like a whole political power situation,
Yes.
forces that be,
The
uh,
cabal.
and the
Yeah.
cabal and all of those things.
Got it.
And I don't know much about that, nor do if we go down that route.
Can't have
Uh,
that one on Twitter. Can't have that's
maybe.
the real conversation.
Listen, there are families in this world, and I don't know what their opinions are about freaking crypto, but maybe it's not favorable, maybe it is. I don't know. But there's a lot of people thinking about it
Yeah.
for sure.
That's wild. That is wild. Okay. All right. So fast forward now. what are you excited about? What companies do you see emerging for midlife, for you, for us, for, what do you see happening now that things are kind of evolving to where they're at today?
Hmm. If I look through my Twitter, like I said, I'm pretty hard on the district just because these people, JR and Keyli, they're proven entrepreneurs. JR created one of the biggest Web3 projects in the space, but he understands why uh, also building hype is not sustainable.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, there's huge companies like Cetify now that are uh, doing big things. I think the plague, obviously another one because he's he's actually launched so he's launched a coffee company and using this is a prime example of how to use the blockchain in an interesting way. The transparency thing actually is great because he's able to show exactly where the money goes to produce a bag of coffee. And he's able to cut out some costs that other companies might that are keeping behind closed doors and maybe taking more profit than they should, right?
Hmm.
And then, well, how does that change the production of coffee? Well, now you're able to tip your coffee bean farmers a little bit more that are already making absolutely no money at all.
Yeah.
When swap is another thing that they finally launched, which is uh, buy inventory of products and let the distributors distribute the products, and then you make the revenue off of drop shipping. Obviously, not as much as if you've done it yourself, but
Sure.
that's another interesting, transparent way for using NFTs and blockchain, right? Uh,
Yeah.
I think I think the consulting ecosystem in general of the top people that actually know how to make tangible change in the space will do very, very well. I'm not sold on video games yet.
Hmm.
Um, I love imaginary ones just because those guys are trying to build an IP brand very, very long term. Some people still believe in Bored Ape just because of the community they have. I mean, they're taking this gaming route. They've made a bajillion dollars, so hopefully they'll create something. But if Bored Ape fails, that's going to be go down in history as NFTs and people again just trying to make money to make no money, and they obviously had no plan. But
Yeah.
there's no reason for you to be worth valued that much money and epically fail. Although we saw that in WeWork and all these other different things outside of Web3, right? If you have a
Yeah.
marketing strategy and a likable brand and can get people excited, sky's the limit this day and age, I guess. And then in general, I would say the other thing, and as you notice, my theme, it's not about these huge conglomerate, massive, massive projects. Uh, I think the small ones, man, individual artists. I think we'll see a resurgence in people actually being in an NFTs to buy art, to be collectors, and I think that's gonna happen again in the right way. This guy, Brain Pasta, was on our podcast, like, makes
Yeah.
incredible art, and I think those types of people are gonna have a resurgence in the things that I believe in, but nothing like crazy hyped anymore. Hype, I actually actively look away from hype.
Hmm. Interesting. That's
Mhm.
that's hmm. Well, I'll say this. So first of all, the band chimed in. Gaming had a lot of potential. Can't be marketed as Web3 or blockchain. Needs to be in the back end. I would definitely agree with that. I think right now it is a little bit of maybe a controversial theme to bust out there, and so anything that's going to be using it needs to kind of subtly have it in there, and then it's like that thing where like where if you tell the kid they're eating spinach, they're not going to eat it, right? But if but
Right.
if you hide it in there and they don't really know, and then all of a sudden they discover they like it, then it can go from there.
Right.
So I think that's a smart kind of delivery system for that. When it comes to hype, I don't know, man. I hear what you're saying, but it is tough to ignore because
For
hype is. I
sure.
mean, there's. Do you know? I mean, look at what is it? Logan Paul. Who's the guy, the influencer that has
Logan Paul.
Prime?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Logan Paul.
I mean, that whole thing with the boxing match with the guy from the UK and turning that into Prime sports drinks and energy drinks. I mean, that's wild. Like, he literally just took hype, turned it into an energy drink, and now it's like bigger than Red Bull. It's wild. And so it can be used. It can be used. I mean, that was like how Conor McGregor got famous as a fighter. He just understood hype and then capitalizing and striking at the peak of that for monetization. It worked. So I think maybe there's a balance. I think when hype is used the wrong way, it can be manipulative and predatory. But I don't know. I mean, I'm I'm excited. I mean, wouldn't you like some hype created around the projects you're passionate about that you just mentioned?
Uh, no, man. I mean, that's what I'm saying is you have to balance your goals, right?
Hmm.
Yes, if I wanted to make as maximum output of money and was okay with uh it all falling apart in 6 months because the hype just can't last that long. If that wasn't my goal, I would care about hype and nothing else but hype.
Yeah,
Uh, but I don't want millions of followers. I don't want billions of dollars. I don't
sure.
even want hundreds of millions of dollars. So no, I don't care about it because I think your product is going to be way more effective if you do it with a strategy, a problem to solve in mind, and an idea that you're trying to prove out. That's what I would
Okay.
like. That's what I
No.
would like to see is just continuing more failing at a smaller scale to get to something that is interesting. And I think you can do that without hype. It's that failing mentality
Sure.
and giving it a
Sure.
shot.
Okay, that's fair. I think that's fair
Oh,
for
one
sure.
person that I have to shout out who has done a fantastic job, Pix. This guy Pix
Hmm.
has this whole content method where he talks a lot about influencers and these 2021, 2022 projects that built hype. And then
Hmm.
he does painstaking research and shows the whole chronology of how these people built the hype and then fell apart. And that is
Ooh.
a prime example of uh, why I just don't think hype in my mind does it for me?
Okay.
I mean,
That's
because Doodles were
I,
hyped at one point, but, like, Doodles, just dropped a trailer, has these huge partnerships, gonna make a movie, right? Uh, they're down I mean, when we were in it hardcore, they were multiple ETH. I think they're maybe an ETH, 2 ETH max, right? So NFTs as whole is a down, and that's just an
yeah.
example of that hype is only really a product of making tons of money in my mind.
I think it's a shame because I think that you just used an example of money, and money is neutral, right? People can do good things with money, people can do bad things with money.
True.
Influence is neutral, right? When people do good things with influence, we call it leadership. When they do bad things, we call it manipulation. I think
Yes.
hype is neutral, right? I have seen people get hyped about really great things that have affected change. And we in that situation, hype was awesome, you know? Hype is
True.
is
True.
how great things tend to happen throughout history, right? Um, so I don't necessarily think that it's all bad. I think that people using hype to get rich quick, which is nothing new, it's as old as time, snake oil salesman. Um, will of course always be there. There will always be predators when there's potential for fast cash and fast attention.
Yeah.
But there will be people that are genuine deals. And I would love to see the hype. It's really cool when people get excited about a good thing. You know what I mean? And so, sometimes the hype can be real. It just can be that.
For sure,
Um,
for sure, and
yeah,
that's a great that's a great way, great angle to talk about it. I think I'm just so I've just been so beat up in this space
you've
that
been beat up, man.
people have
You've been beat
always
up.
used hype for the wrong reasons. Would I
Sure.
love to see hype around genuine people building the right way? Absolutely. And to my point earlier, I actually do think, and this has been our thesis from the beginning, right?
Hmm.
We knew 2021 was not our brand was not 2021 ecosystem. It was fake, false hype with scamming and trying to make lots of money. I think as this ecosystem evolves and the right communities, like I said, continue to band together, there could be real hype around genuine change for sure.
Yeah,
I
I hope
think
so.
I think
I hope so.
this I think there's um I think there's definitely opportunity. And you could get into a whole
Yeah.
conversation about how do you define hype too.
Oh man, yeah. We're just talking the basic, but and in general, I mean, you bring up very valid points. The bottom line is that a majority of the space hype was not a very positive thing, and you look back retrospectively at Web3, right? I think it's very safe to say that, and I think you make a great point that you have been beat up by it. Um, I think that's probably true in general, just in business, and we just don't see it as much out in the traditional business world.
Right.
There's always somebody hustling for some new product or some new thing or some new weight loss thing. We only hear the top quarter 1% in that world, but here it's like all exposed, right? And so um, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, it's a fascinating topic. I will say one area I have been excited about, and we'll talk about this a whole nother podcast, but the blur of crypto and 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 tangible assets has been very
Mm,
fascinating to me.
I think our real
And
estate, our real estate situation has some opportunities here, brother.
yeah, well, here's what's interesting, right? Good entrepreneurs solve problems.
Yeah.
And well, there've been several problems. Like, okay, great. Even if I was one of these scammers, right? And I made $40 million on a rug, right?
Right.
What do I do with it? Great, I got $40 million worth of ETH. How do I do something with that, right? It's one thing to try to cash out 10 grand. It's another thing to cash out 40 million, right? All kinds of things occur. And you get things like whether it be slippage, there's all kinds of, I mean, fees and things like that. So people have been trying to address this, and for the people who have created some money, real money, even just if you're an early adopter of any of these Bitcoin, now you have $2 million worth of Bitcoin, right? What do you do? And it is cool to see that there are companies out there capitalizing on this and saying, we found a way to take this thing you have that's digitally in crypto and turn it into something real. Because you can't go to a traditional bank and say, I want to buy this house with Bitcoin. They don't have systems for that. They have no way of doing that. And there's a whole system of exchanging money for real estate that's
Yeah,
tried, true, and tested. And
for
it's
sure.
just not ready for a new adoption like that.
Mm-mm.
So, what I think is interesting is some of the companies that have figured out how to essentially act as a middleman, if
Yeah.
you will, and take your crypto and essentially, without the slippage, get it to the lending organization or even the actual themselves, and turn it into real cash. And as that gets a little bit more adoption, because right
Yeah.
now it's all third parties, but what's going to happen is you're going to see somebody like a Coinbase, or even better, something like a Bank of America or a PNC say, we have a way to do this.
Yeah.
And when that happens,
Yeah.
it's going to be game on because gee,
And that's why we need to build the RWA connections now.
yeah,
And that's why we gotta get
yeah,
the fucking, Doc on from the Forge. He's a brilliant real estate guy.
yeah,
We kept on missing times. I gotta reignite that conversation because I think having the Doc on would be
yeah,
amazing.
yep,
And as I continue to help my buddy Adam, link, VCs and Web3 startups up, real world assets are gonna be a big portion of those companies that VCs will be interested in. So I
yeah,
think we're gonna have a lot of opportunity to, talk to a lot of these companies. And that's the power, man, is just, uh, understanding these principles at a deeper knowledge, how they're being applied, and not just scouring Twitter and trying to be a reply guy. Like, spend half your time reply guying.
sure.
Uh, Take half of that time and go read some, like, white papers and find the people that are actually building this shit and
Hmm.
listen to what they have to say. You know, we're not that we've never said that we're the experts, but we're experts at
No,
talking to people, and
yeah,
we're experts at letting you know, their true feelings and getting those out of them,
yeah,
and you can make your own judgments from there, and that's what
100%.
we love to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, like some of these things, it can take a lifetime to become a true expert in. I'd rather just have them on the show and give everybody, including ourselves, the
Exactly,
access to them. And
exactly.
let's learn from a lifetime of experience and make better decisions moving forward using that. I mean, that to me
Yeah,
just sounds like a very effective game plan. Because there are people who are way smarter than both of us that are figuring out this bridge from crypto to tangible assets and
yep,
doing it. And I,
yep,
I want to hear from them. I want to get them on the show because
same.
at the end of the day, listen, man, you're not going to give your grandkids a digital monkey. You know what I mean? You want to give them a house. You want to give
Yeah,
them something that's real.
yeah,
And I'm not knocking, by the way, the digital asset. I'm just simply saying that the world operates on physical leveraged items. It's
yeah,
just the way it is. And I know paper stocks. I'm not taking away from digital assets. Um, I'm just simply saying at the end of the day, there's no more land, and so it's a finite resource, and that is a game changer when it comes to asset acquisition.
I love it. Yeah, and I think that's one of the big futures, the potentials here in the
Yeah,
space for sure.
yeah. I think we're gonna see. I mean, sure, there's gonna be overlap in a lot of areas, man. But real estate's a beautiful one because it's already highly regulated, and the idea of something that is supposed to be transparent, like that's kind of how it works, right? If you should be able to follow the deed of a property and the title of a property back all the way somewhere, right? That's kind of how it's generated. How it's how do you know that's your land? How do we know that's your house? Like what shows that? What actually shows it's your property that you live on, right? There's a record. And so it's just a really like round peg, round hole type fit for this.
Mhm.
And I think those are the easiest bridges to start making. And if we're talking about making the spinach more palatable to digest and eat, right? Something like that would be a way to do it for sure.
Right. Yeah, man. I love it. I don't think I have much more to say about that. I know we were
Mhm.
trying to keep to an hour.
Yeah,
What did you think about this format?
I like this, man. I like this,
I
and I
love this
like
shit.
being able to chat about specific topics and get some content. One thing I like that you did is I really like hearing you pull from conversations you've already had here
Yeah.
and share that because it really
Hey,
shows
give
me
me an
how much and how
example.
valuable. Well, how you were just talking about, for example, guests that you want to get on that you've been talking to, or guests that have been on and said something that made you realize a new thing? You were
Yeah.
specifically talking about, was it cat? What did I say? It was a K. Which one was it? The last one you were referencing?
I don't know,
Um,
bro.
but yeah, just
That's
the
how bad my memory is.
I believe it. I believe it. But no, just you were talking about guests that you had on the show and things they were saying, and it's obviously um, it's just nice to be able to pull back from that library of sources. I think that was actually an auxiliary benefit of having a conversation like this, and that's neat.
Yeah, no, man. I think that's cool too. And I actually like I mean, we can talk about some about Web3, but I actually like just
The initial combo.
yeah, the initial combo and talking
Yeah.
about real things like sales mentalities are going away.
Hmm.
Uh, because these themes are not too often in Web3. All
Yeah.
the topics are about is what's the next project? How can I write a thread to make some money? Or candles, right? Candles going up, candles going down. 99% of that shit, it's just all shit, right? So when we can talk about life universal principles that apply to this space as well, that's interesting to me. Um, because I don't think we ever started off this day and age. Now, the theme of this show was to catch up, right? Of course, we're going
Yeah.
to talk about Web3 and
Sure.
that, but I think we do really well at talking about general principles and applying them to different scenarios. So I'm excited to continue to do that when we have free time.
Dude, check the chat.
Who's the chat? Give it to me.
Look, I want you to see it.
Holy shit. Asher, bro.
What is up? What
Where is
is up?
Asher and the Bonji? For all of you that don't know Asher, Asher is oh motherfucking G. I don't know where he is in the world at this point, but yeah, man, we've been through the ringer with that man. I can't believe he just said hey, and
I
he's got a
love it.
SpongeBob PFP on his YouTube thing.
I love
That's
it.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, we'll have to catch up, Asher. We're moving and shaking on a lot of things in the background, but podcast still going, bro.
Yeah, man.
Connections are real, more insane than ever before. All right. So with that said, man, closing comments. What are your thoughts? And I'll say mine. We'll give a
Yeah.
little
Well, I
update
mean,
and we'll call it a day.
we're going to keep doing it, and I want to have more conversations like this. I actually like what you said about keeping it on topics that are just more, I guess, more practical, real world topics, because we're gonna have our interviews, and we're gonna have people that are on the show, and that will be the theme, of course. But some of these things I think are missed, and to your point, they're certainly missed in the space, right? Everybody just wants
Mhm.
the
For
next
sure.
quick thing, and it's the intangibles that take time that are really being missed, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that's going to be valuable.
Yeah. And one of the ideas that I was talking about with bubbles too, which I think could be and this could evolve into it or just a space as well, but like inviting past uh guests on and having a true panel. Right? We're
Yeah.
just moderating, but we're coming with a topic that's juicy and we're getting different takes. Like, I think that could be super cool too.
I do like that. I do
Yeah.
like that idea. It's almost like I mean, it's like a video space, really, but just getting those right people there
Yeah,
to have that conversation.
spaces are trying to get to this live stream thing.
Yeah.
But until that happens, yes, I think a panel with our crazy network and talking about relevant topics that
Yeah.
are impacting the space, or it could just be relevant topics about entrepreneurship too.
Um, absolutely. I would, in fact, I think that would be very interesting to hear people who maybe only people only know in one aspect, to
Yeah.
then hear some of these broader topics and listen to them talking to them. Because we've had great conversations with most of the guests. Like they're sharp. they get it, and it's interesting to hear their takes on these things as well.
100%. 100%. Well,
So
dude, this was freaking awesome. We have a massive podcast coming up Friday morning. Ricardo and Naveen, these guys are big contributors to Tari, which is an L1 blockchain, but they're also really influential in this space. And this is what we were talking about before. They're influential because not the amount of followers they have, not because they're trying to get the likes and the retweets. These guys are building shit, and they deeply, deeply understand blockchain, the ecosystem, and have visions on how they can mold the future of this space. And they're just fascinating human beings. The reason they're coming on the show is, I do this from time to time. I just hop on spaces with an interesting topic, and there are times where a speaker will go up on the panel, and in this case, it was Naveen, and he was so articulate and so well spoken. Don't remember what the topic was. I in real time DM'd him, and I was like, "Listen, man, I don't know who you are or your background, but the way you just talked in that space, I have a podcast and I'd love to invite you on." He was one of those guys. So I know it's going to be a great, fantastic conversation. Matty, get excited, get amped. It's going to be 6 a.m. PST on Friday. Not too amped about that. And then tomorrow morning, I'm waking up at 5:15 a.m. So Matty, Bubbles, and I can talk about one of another business idea. But good Lord, man. We got things shaking, but it is true. To do anything that you truly want in life, you have to work hard, and you gotta wake up every day and put the nose to the grindstone, brother.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's good talk. I can't wait to Friday and chatting with you tomorrow. And Asher, Bonji, great talking with you guys. Yes, Asher, we'll have to have a catch up. All of us. We're gonna do it. We'll do a little MLC reunion. That would be fantastic.
Let's do it, man. And with that being said, we are calling it a night. That was beautiful. Little AMA, little just chatting. We will be back on Friday. We love you all. Mikey G and Matty Mintz are out.